I'm Anna,
And I'm Fran.
and you're listening to Murder Words.
Welcome back
Oh, I can't.
to Murder Words.
Okay, we might look into a different intro. Do you think? You like it?
I mean,
That sounded so mean. It was like the second you did it, I was like, we need to.
change your
Different
voice
one.
doing it. I'm hearing it now from another perspective, so it's just trash. We can come up with a few.
A better beginning and ending because I'm too awkward to continuously do it.
Maybe we should end with like something interesting,
Like
maybe a missing persons case or a cold case,
I like that idea.
like something like that.
I don't know.
And here's a spotlight crime of the day.
I feel like that might do better in the beginning because we're so exhausted by the end. We after we tell a story. Maybe we should try it and see.
Maybe, or we can make it funny and be like world's dumbest criminals.
Ooh, like lift people
Like lift
up.
people up at the end because it's so
That's-
sad.
I like that idea.
I like that one. Okay.
Well, that's my dog Luna and her nails again. So we're just gonna power through that. Okay, I hope you guys didn't Google last week's episode because this is part 2 of Carl Panzram, and he still hadn't murdered anyone by that. In the part 1, but it's about to get real crazy.
He's done a whole bunch of really other bad things though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we ended with him literally moving the bars of the jail with his bare hands.
Ripping them.
Just like I don't even know. I almost said bear, but I don't even know.
Like a rampage.
Just like not even a human. And blocked all the exits and then started like beating up the guards. So he then, we're just going to pick right up. He then set fire to the prison because he likes to set fires. And because of that, everyone had to evacuate. So they're all in the yard. Like all the prisoners are out in the yard and they're literally out there cheering Carl on. Like just like they're at a game or something. Just everyone's cheering. And all the guards are like,
I don't get paid enough for this.
well, that, and they're like, we look really bad right now. Like,
Right.
This one person is just like overtaking us because we did not ever think any of these prisoners could just open this with their bare hands, just move these bars. So they finally got him under control. This is pretty rough too. They threw him down on the ground and shattered both of his ankles with hammers.
Oh.
They then put him in the hole. Never once did he get medical treatment. So his bones just like healed
Incorrect.
in the spot they were in.
Oh,
Like they
no.
never, I don't know if he like tried to snap them back or I don't know. It hurts me, but anyway, a couple of days after that, they transferred him to the Salem Correctional Facility, which was the #1 worst prison at that time. The last one he was at was one of the worst. This one is the #1 worst, like at this time in the country. Immediately upon arrival, he was violently beaten. They chained him to the wall and blasted a fire hose at him.
Oh, wow.
And like apparently it was so bad his eyes swelled shut. They were like black. Like it was bad because they knew, like they talked to the other people and they were like, this guy's awful. Like
We're going to set him up. We're going to let him know what's going on right now.
immediately we're going to just start torturing him. So he had a guard that was like directly assigned to him. Like this guard had one job and one job only, like break Carl. They wanted him to surrender and be a good inmate. Like that was their main goal. This guard came up with his own punishment called the hummingbird. And this is, he would like chain Carl up in a steel tub, fill it with ice water, then use a sponge and a battery to electrocute him. So apparently it made this like humming noise, like a hummingbird, and that's why they called it that. And he would start like at one part of Carl's body and just like go all the way around him and just like continuously electrocute him. And he did this every single day. So naturally, Carl, being who he is, has to get revenge. And he starts a riot and sets part of the prison on fire. Again. So they should have seen that coming.
Mm-hmm.
He then helped multiple prisoners escape. He couldn't himself because he was too big. Like, I guess they broke a window out, like a small window out, and he was like, I don't know if he was lifting him up, but I imagine him like, you know, where they put one foot in your hand and just like lifting him up. That's what I imagine.
Throwing them over something.
So he was helping all of them escape, but he couldn't fit through the window.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he tried to get as many prisoners out as he could. He then went into the kitchen and stole all of the lemon extract. Took it out to the gang members that were still left and like gave it to them so they could all drink it because it's such a high content of alcohol.
Oh, okay.
And then when they started to get like buzzed and drunk, he would gas them up to like continue the riot.
Oh, okay.
And Carl did not drink a drop.
There's stages with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is thought out like, so he has a 6th grade education is what he said, but he's actually, and when you read like his autobiography and like things like that, he's a good writer.
Really?
So, yeah, he did not drink a drop. So he just watched, like he knew what he was doing. His punishment for this was something called the dungeon. This was in the basement, obviously. Total darkness. They left him there for 60 days. Like, did not give him food, nothing. So what he did was like feel around on the ground because he was never able to see, and like feel for stuff and eat it. Like no matter what it was, he would just eat it because he was starving. And come to find out, he was eating cockroaches the whole time. But it kept him alive.
It did. He survived. He's a survivor.
During this time, another prisoner had escaped, and when they went to rearrest him, the prisoner shot the cop that was like trying to capture him. Actually, I think it was the warden himself.
Okay.
I'm reading that. And it killed him, and they blamed Carl for it. They said that Carl gave him the idea and helped him plan the escape. So they added on another 7 years.
While he was in the dungeon?
In the dungeon.
Because no other criminals ever thought about escaping prison before.
So it was Carl. So he got charged.
They wanted to be there before Carl got here.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, the person who was shot and killed was the warden. So they had to get a new one. They decided to hire that warden's brother.
Oh.
So he was fucking livid. Mm-hmm. He created his own new punishment. I guess that's just what you did back in the day. You just
created punishments.
Torture methods. This one's called the bullpen. This was where the guards would draw a circle, like on the ground with chalk in this room. All of the inmates had to stand in this circle for 14 hours a day with their hands on the shoulders of another inmate, and they had to walk in a circle the entire time without stopping. If you stopped, dropped your hands, or like went outside of the circle, you were immediately shot. So, finally, people started to hear about what was going on in this prison, and they decided to do something about it. So they fired that warden and hired someone new. This guy was actually like really amazing. He turned the prison around and like actually believed in helping people and like wanting them to change. He straight up brought Carl right into his office and was like, I just want to talk to you like a human. Mm-hmm. Like, I just want to sit down and have a conversation with you. And Carl was pissed. He was like, what is happening? Like, this is some kind of weird manipulation. Like, what are you about to do to me?
Right. You would definitely think that was manipulation.
Yeah, no one's ever been nice to him. Then he randomly called him in one day and was like, how would you feel if I let you out for one day? And Carl was like, what? What is happening? And he was like, you know, you can have the day outside of prison. You just have to promise to come back. And Carl was like, okay. So they arranged this. And Carl said in his autobiography that he kept when he got out, he kept walking around like trying to see where the people were that he thought were following him. Like, he was convinced that this was some kind of weird trick, and of course they're going to send people to watch him.
Like they're trying to give him like more time or something.
Yeah, but he never found them, and he was like super confused. So much so that he walked right back up to the prison and demanded to be let back in. So, and apparently the warden asked him why he didn't run, and Carl said he didn't know. Like, he just did not know why he didn't escape. He just came right back. He did well in this prison for a while. Like, he joined the baseball team, like the prison baseball team. He was given like jobs he wanted and like more freedom. He was feeling good about himself because this warden was like encouraging him. Like, he was like, you can do, you know, just like really encouraging him. But then in 1918, Carl decided to escape. So I think he was like basically self-sabotaging at this point. He was like, things are going too good. Like, I need to get out of here
before I get hurt.
Because of Carl's escape, they came in and fired that warden.
Ooh.
I know. And for the first time in his life, Carl said he felt so guilty. Like, he felt so bad about this. He knew that warden was trying to help him, but like, I guess he didn't think he'd get fired. I don't know, but you can just tell it like really ate him up. And because of that, he went deeper into the awful person that he was. He changed his name again so they wouldn't catch him. Right now, he is John O'Leary. He was arrested multiple times after this, but because of all the different names, like, no one ever caught on that this was the same person, and he escaped every single time. He then decided to get another job. It was in Mexico for a little bit. He just traveling down to Mexico, just living it up. And as far as I know, nothing super crazy happened there. And then after a while, he went on to California. Like I said last week, this starts to get kind of confusing because he's a world traveler all of a sudden and like in a different spot every single day. So at this time, when he was in California, he continued to rob, steal, set fires, all that kind of stuff. He started to just like kind of randomly shoot towards houses. And if he went past a farm that had farm animals, he would set all the animals free.
Okay.
So he's starting to... There are no records if he actually shot anyone during that time. So he could have. And like no one really knows about it, but he was just shooting at houses. He then made his way to Texas. And it was here that he saw this young guy like leaving his job. And this guy worked in the oil field. And they make a lot of money there. So he saw him walking with like a huge wad of cash. So he was like, this is my next person I'm gonna rob. He then beat him and raped him, but during that, he was choking him so hard that he died. This is Carl's first murder.
Yep.
And he loved it. Like, he couldn't believe the feeling of power he had. It was like this big rush that he'd been looking for his whole life. And after that, he moved to New York City. I don't know if he kept moving just to like throw people off. Like, it never really says. He never had a home address unless he was in like prison or something, or like one of the reform schools. Like, never his whole life. So after that murder, he went to New York City, and while he was there, he decided that he needed to get revenge on William Howard Taft. Because remember, in last week's episode, he's the one who wanted to make an example out of Carl and send him to prison for 7 years for stealing those uniforms.
And discharge him from the army, yes.
Yeah. So in Carl's mind, like, he needs to go to his mansion. He's probably like the president at this time, I don't know. And
needs to
get
do
revenge,
something.
yeah. So he found out where he lived and broke into his house. He stole all kinds of stuff, like expensive jewelry, cash, and a gun. He stole this gun on purpose because he, in his mind, wanted to kill people and commit crimes using that gun so it would be traced back to William Taft. like setting him up.
Right.
That was his plan.
That was his multi-step plan. Okay.
Yeah, he wasn't going to kill him, but he was going to just make his life hell.
Okay.
So he sold a bunch of the stuff and used that money to buy a boat. I also read somewhere that he stole a yacht from William Howard Taft, but it was only in one thing, so he maybe or maybe not stole a yacht from him. So, but he did, somehow he got a boat. And now he's like out there just sailing around, robbing other boats that are out on the water with him. He then goes back to New York, and he has this idea that he's going to act like an employer. So he's going to say that he needs sailors to come work on his boat for him. He told them he would like pay them really good, give them food, alcohol, and all these guys were of course like, yeah, that's a dream job. Like, of course I'm going to. And he would have them work, give them food, get them super drunk, and then he would rape them. After that, he would shoot them with Taft's gun, tie a rock to them, and throw them overboard.
He just jumped.
Oh, yeah. Like, a big one. So, apparently, at this time, though, he's just doing it, like, one sailor at a time. He eventually does change that. But right now, it's just, like, one at a time. And people started to notice that something was off about this. So he let a few of them live to kind of give that facade of he was doing what he said.
It wasn't always him.
Yeah.
They didn't always go missing with him.
He ended up, at this time, killing 10 sailors altogether. He did this 10 times. He has a lot of murders under his belt. And also, in his autobiography, he says that he sodomized over 1,000 people in his life. So, after he let those few live, he decided to switch things up just to keep people on their toes, I guess, and like make it seem like he wasn't doing anything wrong. So he started to get 2 sailors at one time. He convinced the first 2 to like go commit crimes with him, and they were like, sure, because that's just what you do in
you
those
just
days.
Up together.
Yep. And they went out in the water and started robbing boats together. The problem is, Carl doesn't like to share. And like he was acting like he was sharing. He was like, you guys, well, just, split this evenly and all that. And he acted like he was cool with that because he planned on killing them anyway. But before this happened, there was like a super bad storm in the ship, yacht, boat, whatever it was, ended up hitting a rock and it sank. So all of the stuff they stole went down with that boat, including that gun that he got
Taft's
from William.
Gun.
Yep.
You see, divine intervention again. I said this last week.
Just
these crazy random events happen,
and it sent him over the edge. Like, he was pissed about that gun. When they finally made it to land, the 2 sailors were like, yeah, see you later. Because I guess they could tell, like, he was about to do something. But they, like, literally ran. So Carl decided to start train jumping again. Because, I mean, everything he had to his name, he had just lost. So he's starting from the bottom. He hops on a train. At this point, he's 29 years old. So, at least he's an adult now, but he's still very young. He ended up breaking into this huge mansion, but the family was there. He didn't plan on that. So he did what any good criminal would do, and he held them hostage. There was a staff member, though, that he didn't see. Like, I guess they hid immediately when he got in there. And they were able to sneak off and call the cops. So he was arrested again. He got 6 months because they thought this was his first
offense.
Crime. Yeah, because he was using a fake name. The entire time that he was in jail, he was raping other men. When he was done, he got out and he was like, I need to get a job. So he was hired on at the flying squadron of the Seamen's Union. So this job was to help the Blacklegs, the job that he had previously, where he like beat up the strikers. Like just go out and help them. I guess it was like a traveling, I don't know what it was, but this quickly got out of hand. Shocking, because it's Carl. Because Carl brought a gun and like this huge gunfight broke out. Police were called, and when they showed up, Carl started shooting at them.
Oh my God.
Like he's just losing complete control. And everyone involved was arrested but let out on bail. Then he seemed to disappear for a while. When he was disappeared, people started to put all the pieces together. Not all of them, but they were kind of starting to realize, like, I think this guy is also Carl.
Okay.
So they started to realize, like, what a psycho he is. Like, they're just really putting it together. So they started to look for him. And Carl gets word of this and is like, I need to get out of here. So he hops on a ship, like, sneaks on. And I thought of Handmaid's Tale. When that did you see that in the episode? Apparently that's like a huge deal. If you sneak on a ship and they don't know. Stowaway.
Stowaways.
That's what it's
Stowaways
called.
are a big deal.
Yeah. This ship is going to Africa. So Carl doesn't play. Like he's on his way to Africa now. The issue is that after a few hours, he got bored. So he decides to keep it interesting. And he just walks right up on the deck where everyone is and is like, oh, hi. I snuck on this ship. I've been like down at the bottom the whole time.
He has no fear.
None at all. They were pissed because I think they can get in trouble for that. I don't know. But he made it seem like, if you keep me on here, like, I'll work for you. Like, he was making himself useful for them. And, like, if I work for you, you can just let me off at the next stop and no one will know about it.
Right.
And they were like, yeah, actually, that sounds pretty good. Like, we need some extra hands around here. So when he gets off the ship, he decides to hide out in Africa because, according to him, he will have more privilege there and no one will question him because he's white. Which is probably, unfortunately, true, especially at that time. And he got another job. Now he's working with an oil company. This is pretty bad, so get ready. Strap in. He starts to realize that for some reason he isn't attracted to women. Like, he's starting to be like, this is weird. Like, why are all my victims men? And he's super confused. So he decides to try and make it happen. Like, he tries to force it. He bought an 11-year-old girl for $6 and made the family promise that she was a virgin. Because remember, last week, the only other time that he had a female victim, he caught an STD.
Right. And so he associated them as dirty.
Yes. So he, all of a sudden, felt like they were lying. He had her and he was like fully about to do this, and all of a sudden he felt like the family was lying. So he brought her back and demanded that they exchange her with her 8-year-old sister. He planned on raping her, but he couldn't. Like, he brought her back. Like, he just couldn't do it.
He just couldn't do it.
And he brought her back, and he was like so angry about this that he went into another drinking spiral. One day while he was out drinking, his server was the teenage son of one of his co-workers. And he was like doing his Carl thing, like manipulating, acting all friendly. And a few days later, after like acting like he was his friend for a few days, he raped him. This boy immediately reported him to Carl's boss. So Carl was fired. And you know how Carl is. He's not taking this well. When he heard the words, "You're fired," Carl straight punched his boss in the face and then picked up a chair and started beating him so badly with it that he went into a coma.
Oh my God.
Everyone knows, like, what he's about. So like his secret's coming out. They're like, this guy's crazy. Like, so now he decides he has to leave. Mm-hmm. He contacted the American consulate and demanded that they bring him home on a ship. And they were like, no. We know who you are. We know you go by all these different names. And your boss, surprise, like he's out of coma and he reported you. So
right.
They were just like, you stay there. Like,
stay there.
Mm-hmm. Like, we don't want you to come back. He started to sleep outside of that oil company. Like, he's pissed. Mm-hmm. And to them, this is their fault. Like, it's not because he raped some, like, this is their fault.
Right.
Everyone knew he was out there, and they used the buddy system. They were like, hey, will you walk with me? Because Carl's out there and just sleeping. Until a 12-year-old boy was out there alone. He was, like, doing stuff for the employees, and he asked Carl for directions. Like, he had no idea.
Right.
Like, I don't know why the employees were like, hey, watch out for the man that's, like, sleeping outside. Like, don't ever go near him. But again, with Carl and his manipulation, he was like, yeah, little buddy, I'll show you where, because he asked him for directions. He was like, I'll show you where it is. And he took him out into the middle of nowhere, raped him, and then slammed his head into a rock so many times that it killed him.
Oh.
He then set the oil company on fire.
I was waiting for fire to come.
Because that's what he does. Mm-hmm. That's, like, his thing. That's what they do, too, in, like, the McDonald's triad that we talked about before. The signs of, like, a serial killer.
Yes.
Like, wetting the bed and doing all that. The fires and the animals. He ran to another location in Africa, and he hired 6 men to take him to this known hunting ground. Like, they hunted crocodiles there. Oh. Yep. Carl ended up killing all 6 of the men. And then when he came back, everyone was like, excuse me, sir. You seem to be missing some people. Oh my God. And he said that they all got attacked by crocodiles.
All of them?
I am the lone survivor.
Of the crocodile attack.
I punched that crocodile in the face.
Just like that horse I did.
Yeah. So he did throw them over, and in his autobiography, he said he was feeding the crocodiles. So he did, like,
he fed
throw them over. Yeah. He talks his way out of it and eventually snuck onto another ship and made it back to New York. He immediately murdered a 12-year-old boy upon arrival. He then made his way to New Orleans and robbed a hospital.
A hospital?
A hospital. I don't know how people get away with this for so long, but in the hospital, he stole cocaine, morphine, and opium. Because they used cocaine back then to, like, treat stuff. Mm-hmm. He then decided to become a drug dealer.
He's gone backwards with his crimes then.
Yeah. He sold all of these drugs in New Orleans and in New York. I don't know what it is about, like, he always comes back to New York. Mm. He decided to stay there for a while, and he had a victim there named George. He sexually assaulted him and then moved to Connecticut. He didn't kill him. When he was in Connecticut, he stole another boat. Unfortunately, the owner of the boat was like, not unfortunately, fortunately, the owner of the boat was like in charge of the police. Like, he was like really, really high up. On that stolen boat was a gun. He decided that, like, with who owned it and all that, like, it was too risky. So he just, like, stole a bunch of stuff off the boat instead of, I guess he, like, parked it back in there. Like, this is too much.
This is hot.
Yeah. Yep, hot spot. So he took, like, the gun and a bunch of stuff and stole a different boat. He then sailed back to New York. And this is probably so hard to keep up with both places. Once he was back in New York, he met up with George again, that victim that he sexually assaulted.
What a nightmare.
Yes. He convinced George to commit crimes with him And he said he could keep some of the money and use it to help take care of his family and get food and all that. So George agreed. Carl changed the boat. Like, he painted the boat. He just, like, totally changed it. Like, you would do with a car, I guess, if you... I don't know. And so they tried to sell it. And apparently one of the guys that came to look at the boat tried to rob Carl and George.
Oh, no.
So Carl shot him. This is a wild time.
Yeah.
Of America. Because, like, I couldn't imagine. So they kept on doing, like, what they do, robbing people and all that. I don't know if they got a new boat or if it's the same one. But eventually, George got scared and said he wants to go home. And Carl took him home.
Really?
I don't know what made him do that, but immediately George went to the police. I read a lot of things of, like, different psychologists and stuff saying that they think Carl wanted to be caught. Like, they think he did stuff like this or he got, like, a thrill out of almost getting caught and getting away with it.
Right.
So they found Carl and arrested him. He had so many charges at this time, and he decided to get a lawyer.
Okay.
He told this lawyer that if he got him off on all the charges, he would give him his boat as payment. And the lawyer was like, yes, I love that idea. And he did. He got him out of all the charges. When he went to collect the boat, and I guess, like, register the papers, whatever you do with a boat, I don't know. The original owner came back and was like, yeah, this is my boat, and took it back. So the lawyer got no payment for doing all of that just now. Carl ran off to Connecticut after that and immediately raped and killed another boy. He then went back to New York and decided to rob a post office, but was arrested in the act. He was sent to prison. He got 5 years. While he was there, they started, like, adding more and more time to him because people started to, like, connect who he was. Mm-hmm. While there, he tried to make a bomb so he could blow the prison up, but he was caught. He also tried to kill another inmate, but the other guy survived, and, like, he just kept getting more time for stuff like this. He tried to escape, but again, he was caught. I guess he's losing his touch. I don't know.
Right? He's just not caring as much.
He really injured himself during this escape. So, I didn't write this part down, but I read it after I wrote all this down. Mm-hmm. Apparently, he took, like, something off of the fencing. I don't know how he got it, and he tied it all together and made a rope. And whatever he was, like, about to jump over was 30 feet, and he fell on the inside. Like, he got up to the top and he fell, and when he fell, he broke both of his ankles that were already previously shattered, hurt his back, and then ruptured a testicle.
I'm actually kind of happy he did.
Yeah. And he also had a permanent limp after this, like, for the rest of his life. They then put him in the hole. At this point, Carl is 33. They did give him medical care this time, and the doctors were like, yeah, he needs surgery. Like, he has to get that testicle removed immediately. And that was just an interesting tidbit. Nothing really crazy came with that. And after he was semi-recovered, he went straight back to raping everyone. And one day, he was caught in the act. They decided to give him 2 years in the hole until 1928. He was released. He had served all of his time. 18 days after his release, he started robbing places, raping, and murdering people. He went out on this run for a little bit, but was quickly caught again and taken back to prison. And I think this time he was caught, it was like he was stealing a clock from, like, a dentist office. It wasn't anything like
petty.
Yeah. That's another reason they were like, he wants to get, like, he gets away with all this stuff. He's not going to get caught stealing a clock.
Right.
Like, what? This time, he meets a guard named Henry Lesser. Henry is 25, and he's like a really good person. Like, he believes people can be reformed. He doesn't believe in torture. He thinks the way Carl's been treated, the torture parts is like too much. Like, yes, he's bad, but like, don't torture him.
Right.
Type of thing. And this is said to be Carl's only real friendship in his life ever.
Okay.
So Henry shouldn't have been working there. It reminds me so much. We have a coworker who used to be a CO. Mm-hmm. And he's like the nicest person in the whole world. And I just could not, I imagine him to be like Henry in this.
Oh.
So, he took an interest in Carl. And Carl, at first, he was like, no. Like, he's manipulating me, just like everyone else. Mm-hmm. And Henry just, like, he was legit. Like, he just wanted to figure out, like, why Carl was the way he was. And when Carl first got to this prison, he was immediately taken to the basement and put on the snorting pole. Remember we talked about the one that, like, pulls you up and they whip you. And this time, he was left there for 12 hours. This was also the first time he showed emotion, like, that he was in pain. Like, apparently he was, like, screaming, and, like, it was
too much for him.
Because he still wasn't all the way healed from that escape attempt. So it was just, like, everything at once.
Okay.
During this, he started threatening all of the guards, telling them, like, in detail what he was going to do to them, and then started telling them what he had already done to other people. Well, other children, pretty much. And, like, they didn't know this because he was never caught for those murders.
He's in there for stealing a clock.
Yeah, so this was his first time ever confessing to any of this. After his torture, he was caught trying to escape again. They tortured him some more, put him in the hole, and while there, Henry Lesser, that guard, sent him $1, which was a lot back then.
Yeah.
And Carl was like, what? Like, what is going on here? And, like, Henry felt bad for him because he had nothing, and this kind of started their friendship.
Right.
That's really what I'm getting at. Like, it was like he was showing true care and concern for him. He was treating him like a human. Apparently Henry was, like, pissed about all the torture they were doing to him. And this is a quote from Carl. He told Henry, quote, "You are one of the few people I do not wish to harm," which is a big deal because Carl harmed everyone.
Yeah.
He decided that he wanted to tell Henry his story. He'd never told anyone. He asked Henry if he could have a paper and pen so he could write it all down, which was apparently a big deal because Henry had to sneak it to him. Mm-hmm. Again, Henry probably should not have had that
been
job.
Employed there.
So he snuck it to him, and Carl would, like, get the pen and paper, and he would write, and he would leave it in, like, a secret spot, and Henry would come, like, get it. Mm-hmm. So at this same time, they started bringing witnesses to identify Carl for, like, different crimes.
Right.
So for one of the murders in particular, they ended up giving, I think it was George. No, George was, see, I can't even keep up with all the murders. George was let go, but it was another young boy.
Was it the one outside of the construction or the oil place?
I'll have to, no, that was in Africa.
Oh.
So I'll have to, like, look it up. But anyway, it was one of the murders that they definitely, like, had evidence and he was charged with. So he got life without parole.
Finally.
At age 36.
Finally.
Carl was eventually transferred to a different prison, but him and Henry kept in contact. Like, they would write letters and things like that. Mm-hmm. He was telling Henry that they put him in the laundry room for his job, but the guard that supervised them, like Carl just hated him. Like, something about that guy. And Carl had already told the warden there that the first person who messes with him, he's going to kill.
Right.
Like, he told the warden that. he didn't want to be around this guard at all, and so he actually requested for a work transfer twice, but that guard wouldn't allow it to go through. So
he underestimated the Carl.
It was denied. So there was one incident too where Carl started to like pick up extra shifts so he could make more money, and I guess that pissed the guard off too, so he sent Carl to the hole. So, and another thing I read is that guard made fun of Carl for being gay.
Oh.
Like he was like intentionally like
going at
really
him.
picking. Yeah. So, and Carl, I guess he was trying to distance himself from that guard, like by trying to do the transfers and everything, but they were denied. So eventually Carl had had enough, and he snuck up behind the guard and hit him in the back of the head with like this huge copper bar that he ripped out of the plumbing system with his bare hands. I'm just really in shock at the strength that Carl has. Either the stuff was just really flimsy back then, or he's just like not even a human.
Strong.
The guard died as a result of this, and they said the beating was so brutal that there was nothing left of the guard's head. Like it was completely smashed in. He wrote Henry and said he finally got his job change, but he had to murder someone to get it. So Henry at this time is sending these letters and Carl's life story to like psychiatrists and all that. Like he wanted someone to tell him like what was going on with Carl. Mm-hmm. And one psychiatrist or psychologist, I don't know the exact title, but Carl piqued his interest and was like, I'm going to have to talk to this guy in person. So he arranged a meeting. And apparently during this meeting, he told Carl, like, I just don't get the vibe from you that you would hurt me right now. And Carl was chained up, but he lunged straight at the doctor and said, quote, "Take these off me for 3 minutes and I'll show you. I'll kill you right here before their eyes. Before they can even stop me, you won't even have time to be scared." And then he casually sat back down and was like, okay, let's do this. What questions do you have?
It's going to set the tone real early right now.
Yep. In 1939, he went on trial for killing that guard. He was obviously found guilty, and they sentenced him to death by hanging. After a while, the people who were against the death sentence, I don't know exactly what they're called. I'm sure they still do that today, where they try to go in and get their sentences overturned and like just have them to be like life without parole.
Okay.
This pissed Carl off. He was like, no one asked me how I felt about this, and I don't want it. Like, let them just kill me. Like, what is the problem? And he was so, like, this pissed him off so bad that he attempted suicide.
Really?
He was like, if y'all aren't going to do it, I'm just going to do it myself. This suicide attempt, I've never heard of. He cut a huge gash in his leg and then ate a bowl of rotten beans. Like,
what?
I don't know. I do not know. I guess there's like a big artery that y'all know I'm not sciencey that goes down that he was like trying to bleed out. I don't know what is happening with the bowl of rotten beans.
What happened with the beans? Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't know. A guard heard him like throwing up and got medical attention, so he ended up surviving.
Maybe it's because he was throwing up, he would get dehydrated at the same time. I'm not sciencey either, so I could have just made that straight up.
I don't know, like, but why
the beans?
I'm just so, I don't know.
Okay.
So not too long after that, Henry wrote Carl and was like, dude, I have people who want to publish your writings. Like, this was something they had planned. Like, Carl knew that was like the plan, and like they were getting not some steam, but like people were starting to like be interested.
Okay.
And Henry was like, I want to let you know so we can split all the proceeds because you deserve it. Like, you being a nice guy. And Carl was like, you can keep it all. I don't want it. Like, there's There is nothing else you can do to help me. And he addressed his letter as screw. That's what he called Henry, which was apparently a really bad term back in the day that inmates used for prison guards.
Oh.
And so he had never acted like that towards Henry before. So this was another example of Carl hurting someone else before they hurt him, like self-sabotaging.
Mm-hmm.
So, on September 5th, 1930, Carl was set to be hung. He ran up the stairs to be, like, this is the ultimate, like, you are not a human type of thing. First, he made a huge scene, did not want any priest or anything in there because he held on to that, like, resentment. He was like, you're going to have some issues.
Right.
If this guy is in here with me. And then he led the guards, like, he sprinted up the stairs to the thing. And then the guy who does the executioner was like, do you have any last words? And Carl said, quote, hurry it up, you Hoosier bastard. I could have hung a dozen men while you're screwing around. Then he spit in his face and put his own noose on. Carl's wild, dude.
Mm-hmm.
0 fucks. He's ready. He was pronounced dead. They did hang him, and he was pronounced dead at 38 years old. What a life.
What a
life journey. No one claimed him, so he was buried at the prison graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
In 1970, Henry did get Carl's writings published. And you can Google, and it brings all of it up. It's like chilling to read.
Really?
And I want to end on a quote from Carl. He had a lot of crazy quotes. I thought about putting him through this, like throughout the story, but this is the one I was talking about last week, maybe, with the horse.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, I am sorry for only 2 things. These 2 things are, I'm sorry that I have mistreated some few animals in my lifetime, and I am sorry that I am unable to murder the whole damn human race. End quote. And that is the story of Carl Panzram.
Wow. I can't believe I hadn't heard that before.
I can't either. Also, something else that's interesting. Mm-hmm. I heard this also after I did this. He was the first person to have, like, the death sentence to be executed in the federal prison system.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
They made him the exception.
They again wanted to make an example out of him.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm interested to know, like, what you guys think. Mm-hmm. Do you think this is, like, was he born evil, or, like, was he created into this monster because of the system, pretty much? What do you think?
See, I think he is a violent rapist, and that's, like, I can't get over that part of it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, all these things happened to him, but they weren't for just, like, monetary goals. There was, like, other behaviors associated with it, sadistically. So that's what... And I feel like you have more Carl's side right now.
I'm not.
I'm looking at you like I'm talking. That's why I'm mumbling down, because it's like you're not nodding.
I'm genuinely, like, interested to see what people think, because I think, of course, I'm not on Carl's side. Like, he's the worst of the worst,
right?
But I do think that, like, in his youth, that is what he was taught. Like, he was taught to, like, behave that way because that's what was happening to him, and never, like, no one ever, like, stepped in, especially when he was, like, a child, like a young child, and said, like, I'm gonna help you, type of thing. But I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it. Of course, I don't. I have no idea, but
like, he's a product of his environment.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm interested to hear what you guys say about that. And also, another funny thing, a couple weeks ago, we did, I can't remember what story we were doing, but we talked about, it was the cult.
Oh, yes.
Someone from my hometown. Remember we talked about they like held barn dances, the neighbor, and I was like, that
Yes.
sounds like something from my hometown. Someone that I graduated high school with contacted me and was like, yeah, my grandparents have barn dances every year. So it happens in my hometown. And I'm trying to go. So invite us.
Invite us,
to
please.
The barn dance. So anyway, yeah, go follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Let us know what you think about that. murderwordspodcast@gmail.com. And we will talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.